guys, I know I look a little bit crazy right now, but that's because I'm in the middle of filming this tutorial, which you would have seen by now. Because I did eyes first in this tutorial, I took the opportunity to do an updated foundation, contouring, highlighted video, if you would, just so you guys can see how I do my makeup now. So the first thing I start with is a moisturizer, and I either use a moisturizer or an oil depending on the location that I'm going to. I have dry skin, as most of you would have known by now. If I am going to somewhere that has, let's say, air condition and it's at night, where it's not as hot, I would tend to use the oil. If I am going somewhere that is hot and it's outdoors or whatever, I would tend to use something that's lighter. This is MAC Studio Moisture. It's a very heavy moisturizer. Heavy in the sense of it packs a lot of hydration. It's very silky feeling on the skin. So I would not recommend this for oily people during the day. However, if you are oily skin but you are looking for a good moisturizer, which you should be, ideally you want something that's nice and heavy during the night, I would definitely recommend this. This is the MAC the Prep and Prime Natural Radiance. Again, it's for sort of glowy, like a glowy finish. If your skin tends to be dull, it's a good moisture, not a moisturizer, but it's a moisturizing primer. So I would take a little bit of this. It does have like little light reflecting particles, so if again you're an oily skin person, you cannot really get away with wearing this during the day. I am going to do my concealer. Now for today I just have this Loreal pen. This is the Visible Lift. This is literally like $10 at Pennywise. This is medium deep. It looks like this. It's like one of those click pens. Unfortunately, I do not think that they carry this in many other shades. I think it's just medium and medium deep, and I think that's why it's that cheap. But I love liquid concealers on the whole. So I'm just applying a tiny little bit underneath my eye. Ideally, just like before, you would want to find a concealer that matches your skin tone, or that does a pretty close enough job to it. Taken a liking to doing my concealer using the large concealer brush. I've never really been a very big fan of concealer brushes on the whole, but I find that this one tends to work pretty well underneath the eye. So all I'm doing is just really sort of patting this out, and because I have on eye makeup, it also gives me the control to sort of sweep that underneath the eye there and avoid the eye makeup. That's another good thing about using a brush. For my foundation today, I'm going to be using my Clinique Even Better, I think this is the spot correcting foundation. I really don't know if it does a good job of reducing spots. I really don't care, to be honest. This is one of, hands down, my favorite foundations that I've ever used, and I take a little bit out on the back of my hand like that and just start dotting the foundation on my face. And it doesn't, you don't really need a lot of this stuff. It covers pretty well. Some random angled synthetic kabuki, and I've really been loving this foundation, this for a foundation brush. I find that the angle makes it very easy to sort of get into really tight areas like around the nose. Where I don't need heavy coverage, I do this sort of swiping motion. So that's typically like around the jawline when you have to blend out. You do that around those areas, so like around the nose where I don't need a bunch of coverage, around my hairline, down into my neckline, I do that sort of swiping motion, and that allows the foundation to blend out very naturally. And then when you need the coverage, you sort of pat on those areas, and what it does is it concentrates the product in that particular area. A prolong wear, this is in NC20 and I'm normally in NC42, but if I want a very dramatic highlight, I go this light. Another good one that you can use if you're around my skin tone to maybe about an NC45 is the NYX one. And it's the very yellow, I don't know what it's called. I think it's just the yellow one. So I'll probably use the NYX one because I don't want really a very heavy coverage of anything. So I'm just dabbing that right here. And this is a very sheer one, so this is why I kind of like it. And I'm coming pretty far down because I want to brighten up this area. I don't want to go too low down on my cheek because I already have very large cheekbones. And then I come right down the middle. You just want to swipe straight across. And then I kind of run down like that. And then I get the middle here. Now the whole idea with this is that this is different for everybody's face. This whole thing where you're seeing a chart here and a chart there, and you're seeing people doing this and you're seeing people doing that, at the end of the day it's not practical because not everybody is going to look the same. Not everybody has the same features. So you want to make sure that this works for you. If you have a protruding forehead, you don't want to highlight that because it's going to bring that area out. That is the main thing I tell people to remember. It's light because anything that's light is going to accentuate or bring out a certain feature or the feature that you would have put it on. If you have a very big nose, you don't want to necessarily put this on that very big nose because this is going to just bring that feature out. So I'm just going back in with the same brush that I used for my foundation, and that's just going to pick up any excess product so that it's not just laying there. And I'm patting, I'm not swiping because we don't want this to be streaky. I'm going to just use my handy dandy neutral set from Ben Nye. It's a very white translucent powder, and I'm going to just use a nice little tapered setting brush or tapered highlighter brush. Something small that fits underneath here, and I do that immediately after doing the concealer underneath here because you do not want that bitch to crease. And I'm tapping, don't be scared, I'm tapping quite a lot underneath here, and people tend to be very scared of that, but there's a reason for that. When you tap a lot, it absorbs the excess moisture from there, and that ensures that it's not going to crease. And I love this powder because when I use banana powder, for some reason it looks very yellow on me. And I'm going to take this same neutral set and I'm going to just set everywhere that I placed that lighter sort of color. And then lastly, I go into, typically I would use my Care Blend powder, but today I just have Max Blotting powder, and this is medium dark, and it's just again a very light shade, and I'm using actually a stipple brush, the e.l.f. stipple brush, and I just kind of dab that on everywhere else. This has barely any color, and I'm using a stipple brush also to sort of sweep away the excess powder from that Ben Nye fine the setting powder. Good. And I'm using a stipple brush because it's going to give me the lightest amount of product. I don't want this to be a very heavy caked on sort of application. I just really want to set this foundation because before contouring I've been trying, this is the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil. This is a little sample size that I got, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked it or if I didn't like it because it's very odd and I hate the smell of this. Oh my god, everybody says it smells like chocolate. This ain't smell like no chocolate. This reminds me of protein powder, and I hate that acesulfame artificial sweetener kind of scent that you get. This smells like that, and it's horrible. But anyways, and it smells like vanilla as well too, so it just makes me upset whenever I smell it. And anyways, I'm using another stipple brush. This is a MAC 130, I believe. And just anyway, you could use this small stipple brush, and I'm just going along the hairline. It does a very subtle contouring. If you are darker than me, it probably will not work for you, but I know that there is a dark chocolate and there is a milk chocolate if you are lighter than myself. So I'm just taking that around the hairline, and what I love about this, a very natural tan look like that. It's not too red, and I'm taking this again along the cheekbones. Now, just like I said with the highlighting, contouring is going to vary by the face. If you are somebody who is very skinny, you have very sharp angles to your face, you do not necessarily want to contour. Contour may not be your friend. Contour may actually make you look more harsh in person and more skinny and more gaunt. If that's what you're after, then it'll work out fantastic for you. But if that's not what you're after, it may not be a good idea. So still continuing this, I am just placing this along the cheekbones. And let me tell you something really quickly. Most people tell you to do this, and that's fine if you want to find where your cheekbone is. What I want you to pay attention to is you don't go like this and stick the brush in that hollow, because what's going to happen is you're actually going to go underneath that cheekbone, and it's not going to be flattering, because the whole idea of contouring is to make something look smaller. Now, if you want to pop your cheekbone or to make it look as though you have more cheekbone, then you would go under or inside that hollow. If you're like myself and you have fuller cheeks and you want to contour that, what you want to do is use that as your line, use that as your guide. But when I do it, look at this. The bottom of my contour is actually where that line is. And that kind of cuts my cheek in half, because I do have a fuller cheek. And that's just a quick little tip for anybody who needs to know a little bit more about contouring and the purpose of it. So you try not to go underneath there. I do not like harsh contouring, so you will never see my contouring in a very heavy line. And then of course the last place I get is underneath the chin, where I go, you start behind the ear always, and you run along the jawline, and then you pull down towards the base of where your head meets your neck, so no further than here. Now, I'm not a nose contouring kind of girl, because I think that's the most ridiculous looking contouring that you can possibly do, and it's the one that most people can tell that you have on. But for the sake of the video, I am going to do it so you guys can at least get a fair idea as to how I do so. So I take a brush that has a fairly fine tip to it like this, and then I use my eyebrows as a guide, and then come all the way down. You want to kind of keep going all the way down with that. And you want to do it in a straight line. And you want to blend the crap out of this shit, because you will look like a crazy person to the other normal people who don't like makeup, because they want to know why you're walking around with two unblended lines in the middle of your face. And I'm just going back with my powder brush and just softening that whole thing out, because I don't want it to look harsh. Lastly, I would probably do a little bit of bronzer. And for this, I am using, of course, the fergie thing that I told you about. And I'm doing this bronzer the same way that I would the contour. But I'm also taking it back. I'm taking it up a little bit further. So like that. I got a little excited there with the bronzer. Now I am starting this from the apple of my cheek. So it's almost like I'm rounding out my cheek that way. And I am blending it back along the length of that cheek, just like that. So you see that glow it gives? I do like to dust a little bit of this right at the top of my forehead, a little bit on my nose, just kind of like that, and a little bit on the ball of my chin. For my blush, I am using the Papaya from City Color. This is their B Matte blushes. This is the color. It's a gorgeous sort of peachy color. These are so affordable and they're just amazing. So using the same brush, same angle. By the way, this is an angled brush that I use, just a generic one. I am now taking this right over that bronzer and just buffing it backwards like this, just to give a little pop of extra color right on the, mainly the apple right here, and then I kind of go back. So what I try to do is create like an apostrophe, if that makes sense. Like say this is the head of the apostrophe and then it goes back like that. And then what I do is my highlight would come in here, so it completes that sort of cheek. I do highlight, and I am using my Halaner rustique glisen luminizer, which is a sort of white with a golden sort of duochrome under it. Going back in with the same tapered highlight brush, and I'm going to just pop that right here. So again, just kind of completing the apostrophe then, see? And that just kind of nicely fades off. Sometimes I will round it out over the cheek like that. And then to blend everything together on the cheek area, I just pick back up my powder brush and just sort of buff everything in. And this just blends everything so nicely together that it doesn't look as though it's separate products. See, it just blends everything in gorgeously together. I also take a little bit of this highlight right down the bridge of my nose in a very small controlled line on the tip of my nose, because I have a little bit of a flat piggy nose. I take a little bit up here and a little bit above my eyebrows, which have yet to be done, and I take a little bit on my Cupid's bow. And that just is gorgeous. And the very last thing I do when I'm finished with all of my face makeup, at this point in time I would normally finish off my entire face, and once I'm finished with that, I take a setting spray. Always I always use a setting spray. Whether it's for daytime, I have the Urban Decay De-Slick, and for nighttime, or if I'm going somewhere that's air conditioned, I use the MAC Mineralized Charged Water, and that's what I'm going to use right now. I always use a setting spray because I think for me this just brings everything together. It just helps me to settle in and for it to look like skin, and for me to not look like I have on like a crap ton of product. That's really important to me, particularly because it's my philosophy when I do people's makeup as a makeup artist. When people see me, they must not be scared, they must not be worried that they're going to look like a drag queen, and if the makeup artists look like crap, well then they're going to look like crap too. So that's not the case. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was just a quick little rundown of how I do my foundation, highlight and contour. Most days I don't do this. As you guys know, I'm very low maintenance when it comes to makeup, but if I do have to go somewhere and be a little bit fancy, this is what I do. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about any of the products that we used today, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see the finished look for this, you can click right here or check, I would believe that this would be my previous video. So thank you so much for watching, guys.